I've heard that using index mutual funds and their cousin exchange-traded funds are the best way to invest and save for retirement, particularly in 401ks. Quite frankly, that is all you hear. Are index funds good or bad, and are there any risks to them?
Well, I'm not totally against index funds because if it's in some of your 401k plans is one of the only places to go to put your money. So please, I am a capitalist at heart, but the problem is with the index fund, like everything on Wall Street, it's gotten out of control. And the problem is in retirement, there really is no protection for people's principal with index funds. But this has been the latest gigantic revelation in the financial service marketplace since 2009. This is the financial crisis.
How big are these index communist funds in America's retirement plans? I constantly hear that there is a retirement crisis in America. Are index mutual funds part of the retirement crisis in America?
First question, how big are index funds and mutual funds? They're huge. And there's three major players, or four major players. But let's say the three majors are BlackRock, and they have about $7 trillion in assets. They're the largest asset manager in the world. Number two is Vanguard, founded by the guy Jack Bogle, the extension of the evangelical founder of index funds, with about $5.2 trillion. And the last one is State Street, and then Fidelity and Invesco and other companies like that kind of participate in them as well. But they're huge, and they're a major component of most retirement plans today. But there's a lot of downsides, and no one wants to seem to talk about them.
So these giant index mutual funds are major owners of the big banks and much of corporate America. What is so bad about that?
Well, anytime you have concentration of power in anything, it's bad. And what is happening is that these funds, like, for instance, the Apple is owned, I think 20% of the Apple is owned by Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock. But also the banks who brought us the financial crisis, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all these giant banks who brought us the financial crisis are actually the major owners of these companies, and no one's really accountable to them. And the thing is that index funds, which are the largest shareholders, are not saying anything about their behavior.
From everything we hear, that indexing is the holy grail in investing. Do index funds guarantee for retirement anything?
Yes, we do hear the holy grail of investment, but guess what? They guarantee absolutely nothing. They're not. To give you an example, in the research which I've done, and Morningstar can back me up on this, is that during the financial crisis, the major index funds and target date funds lost about 30% of their value. And more recently, in 2018, when the S&P index went down 4.2%, target date funds and index funds lost an average of 6.6%. So there's no guarantees. And this is the whole thing, is that it's an illusion of guarantees, but this is what we're seeing in today.
In corporate America, one of the only ways fund managers can affect excessive executive pay packages is to vote down outrageous paydays for corporate CEOs. Do index fund managers vote for the shareholder or for managers? Are they contributing to the problem?
This is the thing, is that, and FactSet, a company, independent research, FactSet, the latest research I had in my hands on was in 2015, 2016. FactSet found that BlackRock, which is the giant of these things, voted, I think, for executive compensation like 96% of the time. Vanguard was like 96% of the time. And State Street, I think maybe 84% of the time. My point is that these index funds who should be looking out for other people's money, they're not voting down excessively high pay packages, and people should know about this.
Give us an example of how index funds have become poor stewards of people's money. You had mentioned Wells Fargo, for instance.
Wells Fargo, great one. It's or I call it Wells fraud. In 2000. A great example, between Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, they're the largest shareholders of Wells Fargo. Let's give it a great example, and it's in 2016, Wells Fargo came to the forefront when they notified everyone that they created up 3.1 million bogus accounts, fake accounts, so managers could make more money. Now, these public funds, these funds who own the company, said nothing about it. Now, and which was even more bizarre is prior to them disclosing this fraud in August of 2016, this is before they announced the fraud in September of that year, John Stump, who was the CEO of the company, cashed out or exercised 47 million in options. So that's one example. And the point is that the companies are really not, these index companies are really not talking about any of this stuff.
How about another example for our audience?
Okay, let's go to GE or General Electric, government electric, whatever you want to call it. That's another great example. The reason why I bring up GE was once the largest industrial company in America, and today, and they were valued in 2000, valued around 600 billion, and today they're down around 105 billion. So they lost 84% of their value over the past 2 decades. The point is, GE is the largest held stock in all retirement plans and pension plans and so forth, but the largest shareholder is Vanguard. And even today, Vanguard owns 14% of the stock. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that GE has made some of the worst moves in U.S. corporate history. I mean, Jeffrey Immelt bought $24 billion back worth of stock at $30 and $20 a share. Now it's trading at $12. He bought WMC Mortgage, which ended up in bankruptcy this past year. He got all these kind of crazy things. They had a finance company in Japan, which essentially was forced out of business by the Japanese authorities. They did all this stuff. And my point is that the head of the compensation committee was a guy by the name of John Brennan. And John Brennan used to be the CEO of Vanguard, but he was paid $400,000 a year. And he said nothing about Immelt's behavior, but Jeff Immelt walked out the door of GE with a $130 million package, and he got a $25 million life insurance policy and annuity. So we should probably do more with the executives do, but this is another example of how really these funds really don't help manage the company.
What will happen next?
Well, there will be a bubble. There's no question. Everyone I talk to, from the people in the street to economists, everyone knows we're heading for another bubble. It's all going to be caused by debt, and probably last time around it was caused by subprime mortgages. This time will come out from the opaque world of collateralized loan obligations and junk bonds and other things of this nature, which will eventually create a black swan event, and we're due. It's 12 years. I mean, and because of the Federal Reserve keeping printing up money, assets just keep going up. And the thing is who's going to be holding the bag in this situation? It's going to be the retail investor. It's never the big guys. Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, made $26 million last year and $27 million the year before. So the executives never get hurt, but the retail investor who's in their 401ks are going to be left holding the bag.
And what should people do?
Well, they should read some of my research. Go to barryjamesdyke.com, or give us, shoot us an email, or whatever. Or look to working for a small advisor and read up and understand what's really going on, because there is no protection, and it's getting worse.